Geno Yoweri Kaguta Museveni abe yali alowooza okuba ebyangu yena musa yatuuse dda ku nnyoge awo no Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert Bobi Wine simmere kulya simannyo wenu simatooke kulya ebigambo yabibijjiza dda ewa Geno Museveni. Kkooti y'ensi yonna ye ICC obujulizi bwe yawaayo Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert Bobi Wine obulumika Geno Museveni okutibula eddembe ly'obuntu okutulugunya okutta okuwamba okukola ebikolwa byonna ku bannayuganda obujulizi bwakonwamu sitampu ate kati n'obujulizi obulala bwongeddwayo. Omanyi bulungi nti banka y'ensi yonna yasizaamu enkolagana yayo ne Uganda obutaddamu kugiwola nsimbi olw'okuba nti ensimbi babba nzibe era nga ne IMF nayo ebyokuwa Geno Museveni ensimbi akati nno byafuuka bya bagenzi. Awo nno n'abawa European Union adde bamuyimirizaawo nga bayita mu Bungereza nabo kati Kyagulanyi yagenzeeyo n'asisinkana Parliament ya Bungereza House of Commons nabo n'abatabbira ebigambo agaveeyo Geno Museveni byasiba bikutuka gavumenti egenze kugwa kubanga agenda kufa bwavu agenda kubalunkupe lukyolo gavumenti egwewali ennume y'ekigo bannanga nakironderawo akironderewo kubanga engoma yakuze dda. Kyagulanyi si musajja wa muzannyo, Kyagulanyi si musajja wa muniino bw'agamba nti kino kiba kigenda kuba Geno Museveni ali mu kufeesa. Kati n'Abazungu beegasse dda ku Kyagulanyi beegasse dda ku bannayuganda bannankyukakyuka era kati basinzidde n'amaanyi mangi okulaba gavumenti ya Museveni ennume y'ekigo. Asooka olaba akatambi kano ogenda gwe kumanya kyenkugamba nti nno Geno Museveni ebigambo byamubizzeeko dda.
Propaganda. You'll notice as we go that I will only be using the term propaganda. Technically, those are two separate ideas, but for our uses today, misinformation and propaganda will be stated as just propaganda for ease of communication. All right, so I'm going to start by sharing my screen with you today. And let's get going. There we go. There we go. Okay, critical thinking and propaganda. The reason I brought these two things together was because the only real defense against propaganda or misinformation is critical thinking, is thinking critically. We start with defining propaganda. All propaganda is a lie, even when it's telling the truth, by George Orwell. Propaganda is to democracy what a bludgeon is to totalitarianism. Think about that for a moment. We will touch on all of these after I go through them. And finally, we have made the right by propaganda. That was given to us by Adolf Hitler's Minister of Propaganda. There, I got it there. Okay. How can you be telling a lie if you're telling the truth? This is a very interesting question because everything usually seems so black and white. Lie, truth, right, wrong, good, evil, etc. Well, I'm afraid we live in a world where things can not only be everywhere in between those two, but they can also be manipulated by clever minds. Truth, however, truth is not just facts. Truth is not merely stating a fact that has happened. Truth is not merely regurgitating scientific information. I do not wish to devalue scientific information. That is incredibly important. But truth considers intention, or what you mean, what you're trying to get across, whether your intention is to deceive or your intention is to enlighten. This is valuable. This is truth. Truth includes circumstance. So even if you have a good intention, but your circumstance has created a different view of the world that you are in, your circumstance can color that truth. Truth changes when new facts come into play. Again, highlighting the importance of science and being able to see the difference between somebody who has done the research, true research, run the numbers, and understands as fully as possible what the subject is. Truth changes with facts. However, you must be certain that where you are getting your information is a good source. Truth is subjective, or truth depends on who is seeing it. If you have a whole different world of understanding, if you see the world through a lens that is different than what the people you are communicating with sees the world, that truth changes. My truth is different than your truth because our circumstances are different. So what I see and what you see, we have different truths. That comes into play a little bit more when we are discussing self-psychology, but it must be mentioned in this instance, as we will be delving a little into psychology as we go through propaganda. Finally, truth considers objective. If your objective again, or your intention, those two kind of go together. Intention means you intend to deceive. Objective means I intend to deceive to get to a goal. The objective, what is the end game? So truth considers what you're trying to do. And that is where propaganda really, you can really tell the difference between propaganda and truth if you consider the objective. Propaganda does not deceive people. It merely helps them deceive themselves. All right, so why are democracies so susceptible to propaganda? As we are trying to build a democracy, as we as revolutionaries are trying to spread servant leadership as strongly as we can and to as many people as we can, why is democracy, which is the best form of government we have on the planet today, why is it so susceptible to propaganda or misinformation? Democracy is driven by people and what they want for themselves. Propaganda leads people by the nose to the conclusion that the propagandist wants. It is much more subtle than the totalitarian approach of a bludgeon, but it achieves the same goal as it forces a person into tyranny. Propaganda is worse, however, than a bludgeon, in my opinion, because those who are susceptible, those who are deceived, are told that they have no one to blame but themselves. They have no place to put their anger or their sorrow. And we must never think that we are not susceptible to it. It is not okay to blame the victims of propaganda. They are humans who were tricked, and we are all susceptible to it. This I want to touch on briefly, as there are many people in this world who have been tricked into believing things that are harmful to them. They have dug their heels in and they have chosen their path. But these people were not given proper information. They were not given a real choice. They were manipulated, they were guided, and then they were told, and then they were inundated by fear to continue that same path. Fear, manipulation, and guidance by those without our best interests are hallmarks of propaganda. Propaganda works when those who are being manipulated are confident that they are acting of their own free will. I gotta be honest, I didn't think I would be quoting so much from Nazi propagandists. This is new for me, but Joseph Goebbels was the head propagandist for the Nazi Empire. This is a man who not only convinced real human people that what Hitler was doing was right, it spread like wildfire. This was a man who understood propaganda. And this is the danger we face. Somebody who is this clever This understanding of the human psyche could turn an entire nation into something they're not, which for me is probably the scariest thing. It's one thing to be afraid of somebody breaking into your house, something with physical distress. It's another to be afraid of your own actions, to be afraid that somebody can break into your mind, decide how you're going to feel about another human, and then inflict it upon you. Propaganda is one of the most dangerous things to the human condition today, especially since we have so many ways of communicating now. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about how propaganda works. The goal of propagandists, or actually, I'm just going to quote because this is a really good one. The propagandist's purpose is to make one set of people forget that another set of people are human. The key to being able to move people in a negative direction is to find them somebody to rally against. People come together when they have somebody they can blame their problems for, somebody where they can say, oh, it's not me. The reason why I'm struggling to get a job, the reason I'm having a hard time is because that person is doing a thing, and that's not okay. When we find a scapegoat, somebody to blame, a scapegoat, we feel better because it's no longer about us. We can blame someone else. Now, mature and healthy adults never look for a scapegoat and never see our problems as bad. Our problems are not bad. Our problems are teaching us. Now, that being said, there's, again, every time you learn from you know that every time I say a statement like that, it is a blanket statement that is not always true. There is always problems that are bad, but I want you to be thinking generally. If you approach a problem with anger and frustration, you're not going to find a solution easily because you have to first deal with your anger and frustration. It adds to the issue. But if you approach a problem with optimism and curiosity, excited to learn, then and only then will you be able to see the wide variety of options and possibilities that are open to you. However, most people do not approach problems this way, and a scapegoat feels good. So, with that in mind, I wish to tell you a quick parable about the frog and the pot. And today, a frog does not like to be in hot water. A frog can be boiled to death. So if you decide you wish to boil a frog, you put a pot of water on the stove. If the water is then boiling and you put the frog in, the frog will jump out. But if you put the frog in a cool pot of water and slowly turn the temperature up, the frog will get used to it over and over as the temperature rises until the frog literally kills himself by allowing that temperature to rise to the point of death. Now, while you're thinking about that and turning up the heat on a poor little frog, that applies to us. Usually, nobody is born thinking one set of human is less than the other. This is something that is taught. It starts with a statement that you might agree with. Then they slowly and methodically turn up the heat, intentionally. An example of this, we should protect our kids. A statement that we all agree on. Cowboys carry guns. Also a statement we see as true. Guns hurt kids. Also true. Cowboys must hurt kids because they have guns. No longer true. Cowboys are monsters. Do you see how it went from things that are innocuous to scary? Not just quickly, it's a slow, methodical touch. Yeah, we should protect our kids. Oh, yeah, cowboys do carry, and guns are bad. Cowboys must hurt our kids. Cowboys are monsters. They've just got to be monsters. I hope you can see how that progression happened. It's usually a lot more, a lot more steps, but I wanted to give you an example of how that works so you can be prepared if you see something of that nature. Oh, I think I went too far. Hold on a second. Let's go back. Where were we? Oh, never mind. My apologies, students. I'm usually a little more on the ball than this, but I will admit it's a little early and I've only had one cup of coffee. All right. Propaganda is as powerful as heroin. It surreptitiously dissolves all capacity to think. Surreptitiously means slow, steadily, and almost without your knowledge. It dissolves our capacity to think. It takes things that we are thinking and slowly dissolves the critical thinking portion of it and just only allows for the thought surreptitiously. All right. I wanted to give you a real world example of how propaganda can harm people. With this in mind, I chose this particular piece because I am aware of, well, I did a fellowship regarding this piece in general, but because we all generally have the same belief system, I wanted to really emphasize that our belief system, as much as we love and adore it, can turn ugly if we do not watch ourselves. This is not something based out of fear or hatred. It's based out of caution and love for the things that are important to me. So let's proceed. During a time of fascination with Satanism in Christian fundamentalists, though well-meaning, destroyed many lives, claiming that innocent people were doing horrible things. Their belief began to dehumanize people who they saw as threatening to their religious ideology. This would not have been a problem if they had not begun a propaganda campaign to rally all Christians who believe Satan is real. This is a large group of US citizens. They began by scaring people to the point of pointing fingers at non-believers. They called them Satanists. They told people that they were hurting their children actively and that they were sacrificing them to Satan. This was not true. This was not true. This was propaganda created by people who did not truly understand their own faith. This is an example of how fear can destroy something wonderful. These Christians ruined many lives with no proof of wrongdoing. It was tragic and it was harmful to Christianity. Something good was twisted. They dropped a little fear in there, and then they used propaganda to force others who believe similar things to do things they never would have done. Too many of those same fears are used to control people in the US. Example, many have heard that people in California are teaching children as young as 4 about sex. This isn't true. Teachers do not teach young children about sex. They just don't. This is blatantly incorrect and a scare tactic to try and pass legislation that would push a specific agenda. Nothing to do with protecting our children and nothing to do with Christianity, just propaganda. So, how do we tell if it's real or propaganda? I gotta move this guy, I gotta read. Okay. The best way to tell is to think. I love doing these. I've done so many of them, you should know by now. But write this one down. Think. T, test the waters. Does it sound correct or even possible? Use your gut. If it sounds shocking or too good to be true, this is your gut telling you to get the other side of the story. I'm not saying it's not true, and I'm not saying it's not factual, but trust your gut. Oftentimes, when things seem so shocking, there's another story to be told. Find that story. H, how did you get the information? Is it from a place that is getting good facts, true facts, real live scientific information, or even better, real good journalism? I, investigate. Even if you trust your source, good information can withstand scrutiny. Scrutiny meaning to test, to look at closely and scrutinize, thinking critically and asking important questions. If a place that I trusted told me that pillows are bad for sleep, I would then research a little bit in university websites, as well as things like PBS or NPR, as they have gained my trust. I would look at many of those places, and I would gather as much information about pillows as I could, review it myself, and then make a decision on whether or not that information was correct. If it's good information, it will stand up to my research and understanding of how pillows work. Okay. N, never make decisions based on one source. You never know the motivation of the person who's writing it. And that person may have good motivations, good intentions, but may not understand how you see it. You may take it differently than the intention. This is why propaganda is so very usable, because you can just let somebody deceive themselves. And finally, knowledge. Remember the things that you have learned in the past. I'm sorry. That have been proven to be true. Does this information fit? We have experience. We have seen things. We know that if my daughter comes downstairs with a smile on her face, she had a good night's sleep. This is just experience. We know. Make sure that those facts fit. And when somebody tells you something like somebody you trust or even admire did something that you find terrible, take into consideration what you know first. You know they're a good person. You know they try their best. And you know that that they are always taking responsibility for their own actions. So maybe take a moment before you judge them. Okay. My little guy is driving me nuts. Okay. Finally, and I know this is a shorter session. I did that on purpose because this is fairly intense stuff and I'd love to take some questions. Propaganda does not aim to elevate man, but to make him serve. I need you all to understand this. It is the best way to be able to tell if it's real or if it's somebody trying to lead you by the nose to a solution that is not naturally your own. If you hear something, if you see something that is not elevating or educating or building a human or building people, take it with a grain of salt. That does not mean it's not true. That does not mean it's not factual. But it does mean you're on thin ice. You could easily break through the ice and fall to the cold water. Be careful. Be wary of people who are trying to scare you into believing what you believe. Be wary of people who are trying to give you information based on what they think is right. But that doesn't mean don't listen. Oftentimes, propaganda is just looking for a way to worm its way into your ear. But people who are just trying to figure themselves out and give good information do a lot of the same things. This is complicated. This is hard. So you must be able to differentiate between somebody who's trying to make a person serve versus somebody who's trying to figure something out. This is the key between those two. Is it elevating or is it trying to make somebody serve? So it's my hope that we are always trying to elevate each other. We are always trying to elevate humanity in general. We are always trying to become better every day. Now, that being said, we all make mistakes and we all fall into traps. We all do things that are damaging or harmful. We never intentionally do these things for the most part. Sometimes we do. I mean, we're always human. But so we also, again, my favorite phrase, treat each other with grace. If something does happen, consider the source, consider the intention, and consider what the objective is. If you've got a source who is just trying to warn you, clearly they love you. They might be incorrect, but they love you. They're afraid for you. They want you to have the information they do so that you can be protected. So do not judge the person, judge the information. To elevate man, one of my most favorite things to think about and my best tool, my very best tool against propaganda. We live in a world that is determined to control or diminish us. We as revolutionists cannot fall into the trap of propaganda and diminish ourselves into becoming that which we hate. Always strive to elevate instead of destroy. I want to talk with you for just a minute about how easy it is to fall into the role of propagandist. This is my warning. Why is propaganda used to push a cause, any cause, even a cause you believe in? Because it works. It is hard to honestly move people. It is easy to scare or omit facts to move people the way you want them to go. We must always be on guard, watching out for the snake-like movers of people. Most importantly, we must watch ourselves. Just because it works doesn't mean it's right. My wonderful friends across the world, I am grateful every day to get to speak with you. Do not fall into the trap of using propaganda. It is tempting, but it is that snake-like mover of people. It is sneaky. It is dishonest. It is not the way to true revolution. It is becoming that which we hate. We must always, always take the higher road. We are different than those who enslave us. We will not just be another group who, when they get power, chooses to use these things to continue to stay in power. We are not here to elevate ourselves. We are here to elevate mankind. All right, my lovely friends, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions because I'm sure you have a few. This was a fairly complicated, hold on, let's see. Stop the share, there you go. Complicated and maybe a little bit uncomfortable topic. And I would love to hear from as many of you as possible. So to that end, I did make sure, I did it, time management, yes. I did make sure that we have some time at the end of this so that I can take as many questions as possible. So please go ahead and put your hands up. Anybody who'd like to ask a question? Ismaili, I see you, go ahead. Ismaili?
Sorry, yes, my question is, what role does social media play in spreading misinformation in Uganda?
Okay, well, that's an excellent question, Ismaili. A big one.
Thank you.
As you probably already know. Yeah, one of propaganda's most favorite places to live is on social media, which is why I was trying to give you tools to be able to discern or see what is truth and what is not. This is why we think you're going to see crazy, crazy stuff all over the place. And it's honestly a great way to test, see if you can figure it out. It's almost like a game. You know, it's like, okay, this is a crazy, insane thing somebody said, but there might be a kernel of truth there. Let me see if it stands up to scrutiny. It's a really good little testing ground for that. However, keep in mind, propaganda is tricky and we are all susceptible to it. So it's often best to just avoid it. However, I'm saying a lot of howevers. uh, it is an excellent place to show the difference between propaganda and truth as defined in this lecture. If you see somebody who's clearly doing something whose motivations is incorrect, it's a great time to not only post on that social media something that might detract other people from falling into it, but it's a great time to show the difference between the propagandist's goals and reality. No, again, don't start fights. It gets you nowhere. There's a saying where I come from, when you wrestle a pig, the pig is the only one that has fun and you both get dirty. So don't get into a fight, but show the world the difference. Speak up. It's okay to speak up, but it's not okay to cause contention. And that's what the propagandist usually wants. Does that help? I'm afraid I'm not terribly familiar with social media in Uganda, but that's how it works here. So I assume it's fairly simple.
Yes, it's usually like the authority, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have like this big budget like dedicated to propaganda, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have big offices where they get these guys to sit on social media, to sit on computers and like
Mm-hmm.
just push an agenda out there, right? And whatever we try to say, which is the truth, we try to put the truth out there, and then it just gets bombarded with all this propaganda, and then our message gets lost in that, you know what I mean? Because not so long ago, like they shut down 400 accounts that were belonging to the regime, right? And all those accounts were strictly dedicated to propaganda. So yeah, that's the problem we're facing. Yeah.
I understand. That's the problem we're facing too. That's reality when it comes to having a free and open internet. The best thing you can do when you are aware that there are just propaganda machines just going, you can't really realistically fight it head on. What you have to do is make sure everybody knows that those people, those sites, those places are just propaganda, and make sure they know how dangerous propaganda is. This way they can choose whether or not to listen, and this way you can make sure that you're protecting people who may not wish to participate. It's difficult to fight money when you don't have it, but it's not impossible. So,
Thank you
okay.
very much. Thank you very much, Kate. We've got Comrade Tina. She's got her hand up. Tina, unmute and speak to us. Comrade Tina.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm traveling, so it's a little bit noisy. But I wanted to say something. As far as propaganda is concerned, sometimes we have to prioritize things. Like, I'm going to use an example. Please do forgive me, but this is the only thing I can think of because it's a recent thing. About our Ugandan Kabaka. People all over the internet this week is saying, oh, Kabaka's missing. He was abducted, things like that. Now, with that being said, that's something that we wouldn't take with a grain of salt, I believe. That's something that we would have to research and find the truth, because that is a very serious situation. As we all know, who's familiar with, Uganda kingdoms, things like that, if your king is missing, that's something very important. So I think and Miss Kate, if you can chime in on this, I'd appreciate it. That something like that, you know, you wouldn't want to spread that quite rapidly because that could shed a lot of blood, like instantly, like right now. However, you don't want to like scrub it off like it's nothing big because it could be. So you have to investigate, do your homework. If you know somebody in the kingdom, give them a call. Or somebody who's really close to the, you know, to the parliament, things like that, because there's propaganda that may be true, like our lecturer, she was telling us it may be true. And if that were something that is true, that is something that we would want to act on promptly because we wouldn't want anything happening to our king. So we got to be very careful when it comes to propaganda because, yeah, you know, sometimes people say you take it in one ear and let it out the other. No, 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 no. When it comes time to like our king being abducted, do we take that in our ear and let it out the other one? No, we watch, we do our homework. Before we start, you know, seeing things, we want to do our homework and make sure that, you know, these facts are straight. Make sure you have the true facts because there could be a lot of bloodshed in that situation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Tina. I hope that throughout the lecture, we have learned that it is important to, again, think, I hope you wrote that down, all of which would be applicable to something as severe and serious as the loss of our king. However, there are many people who are able to get good information about the Bugandan kingdom out to the people. Find those people first. People we trust, people we know are close to the source, and do not spread a thing like that. Just don't. Don't spread a thing like that until you know. Let those who are closest to the king or closest to the situation do the talking, because the more voices apart from the actual event, the crazier it gets, the more muddled it gets. So if let's say, we'll just use, somebody said, let's say the king did get abducted. Is it my place as a lady all the way out in Utah in the US to spread the news? No, because I heard it from this person, and they heard it from this person, and they heard it from this person, and they heard it from this person. It could have been something as simple as the king is missing his sugar in his tea, and it can get so distorted that by the time it gets to me, it's something like that. Do not spread things like that unless you are closer to it. If I were to hear that the king was missing, the first thing I would do would be to contact Professor Davidson Jinja and ask him because he is closer to it. Fewer voices in between. I hope that helps. Okay, go ahead. I'm terribly sorry. I cannot pronounce your name, but your hand is up.
Yes, we've got Comrade Joe. Comrade Joe, please unmute and speak to us.
Thank you.
Sorry, thank you very much, Kitty. I'll not put on my video. Please bear with me. I think using the case study of the king is a good one. Now, in a dictatorship, somebody goes missing or somebody's abducted, as it happens many times. Now, we cannot. It can be a bit. It may be hard sometimes to really establish if this is true or not true. However, sometimes there could be a sense of urgency. Now, what is the morally safer course of action? Yes, I know. I'm not sure, but given the pattern of events, we know these things happen. People get abducted, and we've got to act very fast. If we do not act fast, somebody is going to be tortured and probably get killed. So this is a balancing act. I know I risk triggering maybe a situation that I shouldn't. But again, I'm looking at the odds, and I really think probability is that the king might have been abducted. We've seen thousands of people getting abducted and disappearing, but I cannot verify this. I want to save the king, Do I go out and put out a tweet? Yes, I may want to verify, but there is, where do I verify from? I mean, that dilemma, kind of a dilemma. I cannot verify, but there is a likelihood that this person has been abducted. If he has been abducted, he's going to be tortured, probably killed, as has been the case with with thousands of people. What should I do?
That is
yes. Thank you.
difficult. I'm terribly sorry. You may continue.
No. Yes, because I risk being called a propagandist, and I may know that is what I'm doing. It's a thin line here. I don't have all the facts, but I think given the situation, I rather raise a red flag than keep quiet whilst trying to investigate. Because how long is it going to take? What happens to this person in the meantime? I don't know. What should I do?
This is incredibly difficult. And again, because of my circumstances, I cannot fully understand the difficulties that you're dealing with. Most of what I'm trying to teach is based around things that are not quite so extreme. However, Joseph, you do, when it comes right down to it, if you have done everything you can, if you have worked hard to find information and you cannot verify, but you are scared and you're worried about somebody valuable to you and you know what could happen, always act. Always. It is not propaganda to put out there that you're worried. It's not propaganda to protect people you love. It is propaganda to lie about the king being abducted so that you can stir people up. It is propaganda to try and start a war based around things that you know are tender and precious to people. It is not propaganda to protect you and your community. I want to make that very clear. I'm speaking strictly from a place that is away from Uganda. Uganda is in a place that is very difficult. I just want you prepared to be able to fight the propaganda that's going to be all over. And just be aware that if somebody does say that the king is missing, that you do try to verify. But the king is the king, and it is okay to protect and honor him. I would also very much love to hear if Professor Sinjinja had a couple of words regarding this, but I want you to know, Joseph, that I do not think that anything that you are doing is propaganda, because your intention and your objective are not only good and admirable, but they're based on real things that happen. This isn't propaganda. It is good. Professor Sinjinja, do you have some words you'd like to share?
Oh, colleagues, students, we are so delighted to have a distinguished lecturer, Teacher Katie, empowering us and giving us this wonderful class. We will turn the time over to the moment of silence, and then I'll take over the next a few minutes after the class, after the moment of silence, and then I'll dig deeper into the lecture as well. Thank you. Dorcas, over to you for a moment of silence.
Thank you. May the souls rest in peace. Our brothers and sisters were murdered and were sent off by the dictator, so early. And we brief to a minute or two and to allow us more time. Thank you. Over to you, Professor.
All right. So distinguished students, we welcome you once again to the second hour of our class lecture. And then
ndowooza ebigambo mubiwulira bulungi byakutaasa ggwanga lyaffe naye nga tulina okuba abagezigezi okulaba nga twegubako nakyema lyakuba akozesa tools nyingi okweremeza mu ntebe naffe tulina okukolesa buli ekitusala mu maaso okulaba nga ayitona ekinene kyawanga. Mbaagala nnyo mwenna abaliko. Omukama Katonda nasaba bankuumire, tujja kuba tuddamu batayi mweraba.